Hello. So today I'm going to be showing you basically a model of understanding personal development on the most fundamental level. So this is actually the most advanced or the ultimate. You could think of it as a personal development model, but it's also about spiritual development, um, ego development, so kind of your sense of self and what you recognize yourself and basically your reality to be. We could conceive of this model being, um, pertaining to all of those different aspects of reality. So this is how you view reality. Basically, this is the lens in which you perceive reality. So at the bottom, we have simply, then this can be for, you have this quadrant at the top right. This can be simply for the individual versus the group, or the interior versus the exterior. So this is all about our personal experience, and this is what we'll be going through today. I'm sure it applies to all these different ones, but we'll be focusing on this one. And then we have the empirical or the exterior individual. So it's kind of the classical sciences, the facts, that kind of thing. And then we have the empirical kind of systems thinking view of things. It's basically the same as this, but on a larger scale. And then we have the interior group. So that's like culture, music, comedy, morality, anything like that. That's more to do with the interior. It's kind of this one, but generalized to us rather than I, if that makes sense, or we rather than I. So we start off at the bottom. These four quadrants are just different areas in which we can move up this ladder here. So we can be highly developed here, but we might be lacking over here, or we might be really developed here, but here we might not be. We might be a bit lower. And we have all these different ways in which we can grow. You can even see down here, if I don't know if you can zoom in that much, but there are different ways you can move up this ladder towards higher development. There are different kind of dimensions in which we can kind of pass apart your daily life or your reality into these different aspects of growth. And of course, they're not going to be completely, you're not going to be able to separate them completely, but it is useful to kind of conceptualize them nonetheless. So at the start, this is the main ladder, and that's the most important part of it, this big bit here. Down here, it doesn't really matter too much. It's more to do with the nuances. Up here, I wouldn't focus too much. This is more to do with personal development. So down here, it's all about just survival. There's nothing interesting down here. It's like bacteria trying to stay alive. Anything that's really, really basic, that's all just to do with like eat, sleep, like possibly reproduce. Well, of course it'll need to reproduce and not die, not be eaten. That'll be in the first one. The second level, so the first one was instinctive, the second one's magical, animistic. With this, it's more about like spirits, and you can think of it to do with like tribes in the Amazon and places like that. They'll still be in this kind of level where they have this mystical way of thinking, but it's not genuine mysticism. It's more like believing in ghosts and random gods that don't exist, and it's all a little bit it's certainly not scientific. It's not logically coherent. There might be some truth to some of it, but it's more very rudimentary. It's their way of understanding reality at this point, and that's all to do with staying alive as a tribe. Because the first one was about keeping myself alive, and now the second stage is about keeping my tribe alive. And then following that pattern, we go to the third stage, which is about power, and this is about myself and gaining more power for myself. You're only able to, with this stage, you only perceive the world through the ego, and you do that at every stage. But this is our conventional understanding of what an ego is. It's very about me, like power, self-aggrandizement, basically keeping yourself the reason I'm a bit distracted is because I've got something that's very irritating my skin. I'm just going to have to move it around. So this one is about keeping yourself alive, attaining more power for yourself. It's about hierarchies. For example, the Roman Empire was about conquering different tribes and nations, and well, there weren't really nations back then, but different empires. It's basically all about taking more for yourself. Like if I'm more powerful than you, that's all that matters. I don't care about who's right, who's wrong, what's the right thing to do, I want to be a good person. There's none of that. It's just about I'm more powerful, I can take what I want, that's all that matters. Which is not very pleasant, but it's a part of nature, it appears. So the ego, as you can hear, I don't know if you can see this clearly here, but this is pre-egoic, so you haven't even got a concept of the self yet. You haven't got this concept of I exist. You're simply experiencing reality and trying to survive. Like when you were a baby, you didn't know you existed. And pets, they don't know, a lot of pets or animals, they don't know that they exist. They don't recognize themselves in a reflection. They just they go around just surviving. That's their reality. There's no concept of I and what I want. They simply want. Whereas this egocentric, you have this concept of the self, but it's all about what that can gain. You have this filter where you perceive the world through what you can take from it, what you can gain in power for yourself. So as that's going up, it gets more of a larger scale. So pre-egoic, you don't even have a concept of yourself. This one, you're not self-reflecting, but you're aware that you exist. As we go up higher, it goes to ethnocentric. So that's about people that look similar to you, your nation, your tribe, your religion. It's all about us again, like what's good for all of us. And as we go up higher, I won't get onto it yet, but we go towards world-centric, and then even at the top, it goes pretty crazy up there. But this is about putting the world at the center of your reality rather than your nation being the correct nation or your religion being the correct religion. This is about there being lots of different religions, lots of different nations. They have different opinions and different views of the world, different paradigms in which they perceive the world. But none of them is necessarily correct. Not down here it'd be like, oh, my people are better than the other ones, my people are right. But up here it's like, oh, there is no correct one. Everyone has competing opinions. Not that they're all equally valuable, but there's no kind of objective measure of one that's more like one that's correct and the other ones aren't. There's kind of an unbiasedness that comes as you move up the spiral and your ego starts to expand, but expand in a good way. It's not inflating itself. It's not increasing its self-importance. It's realizing that it's just a part of it's seeing the world from a more objective view. And in doing so, it kind of realizes that its egocentrism down here was a bit of an illusion. So we can go back down. So we've got the same thing here. This is pre-rational. So rational rationality is more about kind of logic and working things out, using your brain to think. And down here, it's all not very rational. It's like believing in a religion, even though it doesn't make an awful lot of sense. And, supporting your people, even if they might be wrong, like they might be doing horrible things, but they're your people. And that's all that matters at this stage. Up here, there becomes this point where we start to question that. We start to look at things more objectively in the rational stages. And then even up here, we have the trans-rational, and we can probably get on to what that means. But it's not that simple, because it's not too easy to understand these top stages when I'd like to think I'm definitely at least at this stage here, and a lot of the time in the construct-aware stage. I'm definitely not in the unitive stage, but I think I have a good understanding of these stages, so I can kind of I can bring them to you and explain them to you. So this is to do with cognition, the thinking mind. This first column here, it goes pre-rational, rational, trans-rational. Down here we have the ego, so we have pre-egoic, egocentric, ethnocentric, and world-centric, and then we have cosmocentric at the top, which is probably expanding your sense of self to the absolute maximum, which is you're merely a part of the universe. You are an expression of the universe. I think Carl Sagan said, we are star stuff. We are the elements that came from dying stars. You're made of the same atoms. You're made of the same everything that's the same as the rest of the universe. There's nothing special about us. We're merely leaves of a large tree, and we believe ourselves to be separate from the tree, but we are in fact just parts of the tree that will return to the tree once we die. And that would be my basic understanding of what cosmocentric would be trying to get at. And then we can go down here onto the pre-conventional, conventional, post-conventional. So I think, let's go on to conventional. Okay, so this is conventional. So pre-conventional is like the people that aren't quite people, like children and animals, things like that. So knowledge, these are the lower stages here, and up here are the higher stages, and they've linked wisdom to the higher stages and knowledge to the lower stages, which I think is kind of fair enough. So knowledge is about understanding more, knowing more, being able to predict and explain more things, and discovering how things work. This is very conventional. Like, this is our conventional understanding of science and generally our culture, kind of how it understands things generally. And then wisdom up here is about understanding things in more depth, recognizing your own implicit assumptions in your arguments and in your basic worldview. Like, just fundamentally, what are you taking for granted when you perceive the world? What are your axioms that you haven't become aware of or questioned? You see dynamics and a contribution system. I don't know what that means, but basically you're looking at the larger world and you're seeing how things work on a grander scale, like on why things are doing what they're doing and what's motivating them. Like these systems, like complicated things, you're able to understand them intuitively because you can understand the elements of that system and what motivates them and what they actually are. And you can kind of get this understanding of you get this real wisdom for understanding nature and reality itself that isn't to do with this rational mind down here of just thinking your way through everything. This is taking in huge amounts of information from a vast array of sources and using your intuitive mind or your unconscious mind to perceive patterns and understand it at a less conscious level. You're still conscious of it, but you get to that point through it bubbling up through your subconscious. Whereas down here, you're far too egoic to do that. You're in the linear mind, you're in the rational mind, and you think science is the ultimate truth. You think your religion is the ultimate truth. You're kind of stuck with the general population and their mediocre worldview, or you're down here. But as we go up here, you start to self-questioning is starting to think, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe someone else actually has an opinion that I should learn from, because maybe I don't know everything. Maybe there's something that I'm missing here. With science, for example, maybe science isn't the answer. With your religion, perhaps there's another religion that might know, might be able to give me a different way of looking at reality, so I can learn what it's really like. I can understand reality more in depth rather than just through the lens of my one religion. You start to get this humility at this stage, and where you actually can get this wisdom come through. Whereas down here, it's all about, I know best, it's all about me. Yes, I know how it works, even though you're ultimately still at a lower stage. Then we have self-actualizing. This is becoming your potential for a lot of people. I think I don't believe everyone has a potential of reaching this point. Perhaps they do, but in everyday reality, it's unlikely that most people will reach this point. This is becoming your fullest potential, who you could be if you did everything right. And at this point, you're taking in so many different perspectives that you're starting to synthesize your worldview into something that's very coherent and very, very resistant to someone criticizing it, because you've already built it up to such a point where it's strengthened. For example, if you're religious, you would look at all the different religions and take out the core aspects that are from each of the religions. You can kind of abstract out the core from all of them, and you can learn what religion really is, and you can take that as part of yourself. You can criticize it. You can learn which parts of it are nonsense and which parts of it are actually, there's something to it. And the same with your nation and its values. You can think, maybe my nation isn't the best nation. Maybe there are parts of it that I think could be better. And this self-actualizing is the synthesis of all these different perspectives into a coherent whole that suits who you are. And then after that point, and yes, you can go further, you become construct aware. So this is when you recognize that the self is an illusion. The concept of I is an illusion. That you were, in a sense, fabricating all the stages below. So let's go back to the other ego development. So the bottom one, you're not fabricating anything at this point. You're literally just staying alive. You don't even have a concept of the self. Similar with this one, slightly different, but similar. Up here, you start to have the concept of yourself, the ego, and what can benefit me. This is the root of the illusion. This concept of I and what I can gain. Ultimately, it is an illusion. Even though it's very useful and it's useful to survive, it is an illusion. So yeah, If we go up, so the construct aware is this one up here. So we can go back to where we were before. This is to do with religion, that kind of thing. It's all about being normal, and if you deviate from the norm, people will think that's somehow inherently evil or bad. Very simple-minded, basically. And then as we go to the expert stage, that's kind of in between these two here. We have we have this kind of rationality kicking in here. So it's all about being an expert, or being the best you can possibly be within your domain. So being like skills centered, and being very good at what you do, and being highly rational, highly logical. That's all about this level. And as we get up here, so this is where it kicks in, the real rationality at the top here. This is to do with the scientific stage. It's all a bit messy. I'm sure I can get into it more, but these stages are just boring, basically. This is where the majority of people are, and they're very average, and this is how most people think, and we have to cater to people like this. Not that it's necessarily bad, but they all, at this point, arrogantly believe that they're correct. You have, my country's the best, my religion's the best, it's the only correct one. And then you have up here, science is the only way to understand true reality. There's no other way than science. If you're not logical, then you're stupid. Kind of arrogance, but they are more developed than the religious person. Up here we have the hippies, the snowflakes, the Greta Thunbergs of the world, the people that think that, we should all join together and stop destroying the world, and everyone should live in harmony and all this stuff, without understanding things systemically. They don't have this concept of people need to meet their survival needs at the stages down here in different countries, and the only way to do that systemically is to, a lot of time, burn a lot of fossil fuels. People like Greta Thunberg here will blame the people at the lower stages for being the way that they are. They take a very self-righteous stance on the world, rather than thinking, hey, maybe there's something I can learn here. They think, you're evil, you're all evil, and I'm good. So still a little bit primitive, but they're getting there. They've realized that that everyone has a different perspective on the world, that everyone can think differently. Whereas down here, it's like, there's only one way that's correct to view the world, and it's science. And as we go up here, this is to do with systems. So the second tier, as you can see here, we've gone to the second tier from the first tier. The second tier is, it's basically, in the first tier, you're only conscious of you would always think that you're correct, and you would demonize everyone else at different levels. Even if you're down here, you would demonize all the ones up here. You think, you're being stupid. What are you talking about science? Like, Greta Thunberg, I'll just kill you and take all your stuff, and I'm right because I'll be alive and you'll be dead. And Greta Thunberg would think they're all like, anyone, not just Greta Thunberg, but anyone in this stage here will look at the other stages, and anyone on this stage will look at all the other stages and think they're wrong and I'm right.